Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
So many of you over the last 3 months have been asking me questions through email about not just becoming a stronger grounded man, but also about how I built my online freedom business. You see, I used to be broke, sleeping on my brother's couch with only $15 to my name, to now having a top-ranked men's podcast on iTunes. I'm a 3-time Amazon bestselling author. I sell out events where men come from around the world to attend my powerful trainings, and I'm working with amazing clients one-on-one. I share exactly what I would do if I was going to start over in this free training on becoming an influencer at kfminfluence.com. Again, that's kfminfluence.com. This will get you in the game, save you thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours of trying to figure all of this out on your own. This is the stuff people charge for, but I'm giving it to you for free at kfminfluence.com. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Michael Knight. He's the author of Fundamentals of Female Dynamics. This is what he calls a mature guide to attraction that is not insulting to women and not insulting to the intelligence of its readers. I found this a very interesting read. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right, Michael. So we start off every show with a quote, some sort of saying that maybe you've lived by that's helped you on your journey. What do you got, and what does it mean to you?
My quote is, don't ask for guarantees and don't look to be saved in any one thing, person, machine, or library. Do your own bit of saving, and if you drowned, at least die knowing that you are heading for shore. And this quote comes from the book Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, and I interpret it as the following. Don't ask for guarantees. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And don't look to be saved in any one thing, person, machine, or library. To me, that's like, don't tie your identity. Don't look for salvation in just one thing, one person, be it your family, kids, your lovers. Your machine can be your work, or library can just be knowledge in general. It can be university, it could be reading, it could be podcast. If you tie your whole identity to just one of these things, which can be taken away from you, you're going to be not in good shape if it disappears. And instead, of looking for salvation in just one of these things, do your own bit of saving, which is head in the direction you really want towards the things you want. And to make it sound less morbid, I'll switch drown with fail. And if you fail, at least you fail knowing that you're heading in the direction that you really wanted to be going in.
And where do you feel like most men are in relation to this quote?
I think actually a lot of men don't even know where they want to head to start out with, really. I mean, they see things on TV and they see things like, oh, I'd like to have money, I'd like to be rich, I'd like to have tons of girlfriends or something like that.
Like a Dan Bilzerian, that Instagram guy, kind of wanting to live that lifestyle, but not really, questioning, is that really what I want? Is that even in alignment to what I value?
Exactly. And even once you get those things, you will probably have temporary happiness for having them. But for true fulfillment, it's really like I say at the end of my book, true fulfillment comes from embracing the never ending process of going after your self-avowed goals, right?
And it doesn't stop. I think that's a key point there, is that it's a never-ending process is what I'm pulling out of what you just said. That when you set
it's embracing
goals,
the process.
Once you achieve it, it's, relax, celebrate, but time to go on another journey rather than that's it. Like, I'm done. I did it. And then you start plateauing and going downhill.
Sure, and they can be different types of goals. I mean, the important thing is they're your self-avowed goals. They're not goals that society set for you. They're not goals that other people have set for you. They're the goals you've set for yourself, and you find you're happy in pursuing the goals you set for yourself. And that even if you don't reach them, you can still find satisfaction in knowing that you're being true to yourself. And they can be in life, love, happiness, career, all different things. And you can focus on different ones at different times, but it's always that growth. You should be growing at all times in some way.
Yeah, let's talk about that a bit. You said even if you don't achieve your goals, you can still be happy. that you were actually on the journey. You were starting. You were doing something that you wanted to do, and you tried. You were in the arena.
Yeah, correct. Like, of course, there's times to cut your losses, and you some goals maybe you should not pursue forever. But you should have a vision in your head of what you want, and you should take everyday steps towards it. Like some people are very like the burn the boats, like do this or die, like type of attitude, and there might be a time for that. But I'm much more of the like steady progress, steps every day in the direction of your vision to find success. And in my own life, I've found that true on multiple occasions. I can give an example of like once I was watching a video online of Elon Musk showing SpaceX, and I was like a tour of it, and I was like, wow, it'd be really cool to work there. What would I do? I was like, okay, well, I studied engineering, so I was at university. Okay, I'll join a satellite team. I'll get experience building spacecraft at the university. Okay, this summer I'll get an internship at a different aerospace company, start building like my skills. And then within 2 years later, like I was doing an internship at SpaceX. I did high five Elon Musk, and I was thinking in my mind, just like, wow, like how did I get here to this, like standing in this factory? How did I get here? And like later I was on a project out in the ocean on a boat, and they're testing the parachutes of the space capsule. And I was like, wow, how did I, like, here I am, I'm like 20 years old, can't even drink alcohol yet, but I'm out in the ocean on a boat, like controlling the system to gather data from a parachute test. And as it's like every day just thinking, okay, does this bring me closer to what I want to be doing or take me farther away? And the same thing was like for writing this book. When I got into self-development, I got into some podcasts and watching YouTube videos. And within a couple of years of that, 2 years later, I'm now, while doing research for the book, traveling with one of the biggest companies there is. I find myself in Bulgaria coaching. And it's like, wow, 2 years ago, I watched a YouTube video, and now I'm in Bulgaria.
Look at it. So it could almost be like from YouTube video, watching Elon Musk to high-fiving Elon Musk. How I did it.
Yeah,
from watching from watching dating instructors on YouTube to coaching students in Bulgaria.
Yeah. And again, the point is like these weren't overnight things. Like these were within the course of a couple of years. But actually, like the point is it's amazing how much you can accomplish in any aspect of your life just within a few years by persistently taking small steps every day. And even if you don't see the progress, which you might not. A lot of times there's like the threshold, right? You have to cross a certain threshold before you really start getting feedback. You need to train yourself up to a certain level before you start seeing it. That might take a couple months, but you're still putting in you're like learning an instrument or anything else. You're still putting in the time, and then you start seeing results, and then really it compounds quite quickly. And then within a couple of years, you can really change your life for the better.
Wow. And I think what most of society is teaching us and what we are easily succumb to is instantly gratifying activities where we want to start a business and it doesn't work within 3 months. We quit and go to the next business opportunity. We want to improve our dating life. It doesn't work. We get rejected. So maybe we scrap the whole idea and we go online dating or we try something else. And we're constantly in the pursuit of the instantly gratifying pleasures instead of actually putting in the time and dealing with what you call the threshold of what it feels like no progress at all, but being able to push through that. So
Right. And a lot of people, like, especially when it comes to the dating community, they always are describing this like, yeah, just have to push through the pain. And I was like, I never really experienced like that much pain. There's a couple like abrupt, like I don't even really consider them rejections, right? Like it's all in how you even think of like, if you're learning like how to cold approach people, introduce yourself and try to, like most people go out with the intention of like, I want to go pick up a girl. And it's like, my intention is like, I want to go out and meet new interesting people and practice my social skills. And, I only fail if I don't go talk to the women that I think are attractive. Like, and if I chicken out, that's a failure. If I actually do it and I learn something from it, like that was a great night. Like it's also setting the threshold of what you determine as success in the beginning. That's helpful.
Yeah. How do you push through those plateaus where you feel like you're not getting results? You feel like you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again. Is this really going to work out? Because I think it's that uncertainty. It's if I'm not seeing results now, then I'm uncertain that the future is going to be any different. And I think that's where a lot of people lose hope in anything that they're trying to achieve.
Well, one thing is re-examining the first principles. And a lot of things, if you're doing some things over and over and not seeing any results, you should reevaluate some of the principles you're looking at. Because some people, like we have students and they go, well, I've approached thousands of people, and they really have. And they're like, I have no results. And it's like, well, you're going with the intention of think in your mind, you think all I have to do is talk to 1,000 strangers and then boom, I'm going to be awesome. Well, it's not going to be that way if you don't learn from every interaction, right? You're not doing it. Your intention is not even to have an interaction with the person. Your intention is just to approach them and have that account towards like something in the future.
Number to them.
Yeah. And it's like, we had people that they're on like their 8th boot camp, right, with us, like, and at this point, it's like, okay, you got to really evaluate what you're doing because it's not about the approaches at all. It's about learning about yourself, learning about what you value, and being able to effectively communicate, honest communication to the other person, and then finding out if you're compatible.
Boom. You made it sound so simple. So your dating journey here, you saw the video, you became a coach for a large dating company, and you've written the book Fundamentals of Female Dynamic. Let's start off with a couple of the concepts inside the book, and we'll go back and forth a bit here. But you start off the book with something called the Feynman principle. Can you share more about what this is?
Right, and actually, it wasn't even YouTube. YouTube followed this, but that's what really got me into self-development to begin with. There's this famous physicist, Richard Feynman, and he was he got the Nobel Prize in physics. He worked on the Manhattan Project, making the atomic bomb. Met with Einstein and everyone, like top-notch guy. And there's this book about his life, and it's just stories and anecdotes from his life. And of course, some of them, and it's this very entertaining book. And this guy, I mean, he once just like quit physics for a couple of years, went to Brazil to play bongo drums. He lived like a very interesting life, went to Vegas. He just loved doing different things. He wasn't really typecast just as a physicist, even though you'd consider a Nobel Prize guy, probably like a nerdy guy. He still was really good with women and did all these things. And one of the things in the book was going out to work in the Manhattan Project. He's out in the desert. He would go to like this small bar on the weekends to relax. He was always having no success with women in this bar. And finally one day he's like, I don't get it. I buy these girl drinks. I do all these things for them. But I'm having no luck here. And the bartender's like, well, I worked in bars my whole life. Like, I understand the social dynamics that go on in bars. Let me teach you something. So he's teaching them like, don't buy women drinks, don't do any of these things. And Feynman finally does that, and he actually gets some success. And he's like amazed. He's like, this doesn't fit my model of the world at all. But look, this experiment, he's a physicist, remember? Like, this experiment proves that there's something that I don't know. And that was the same with me. I was traveling once, I think it was in Poland, and this girl's like, oh, I'm like, let's go to the bar, let's get a drink. And I get my drink and I pay. And she thought I was going to pay for hers. I never offered. She just assumed it. And I was like, oh, no, sorry, I'm just paying for my own. And she was like shocked. She had even left her purse on the other end of the room. So she had to walk all the way back across the room to her friends, get her purse and pay. And her friends the rest of the night are like, oh, you're such an asshole, like da-da-da-da-da. And at the end of the night, I didn't even talk to her again. But on the way out, like, she kissed me. And I was just like, okay, like, maybe there's something to this Feynman story. Maybe there's something in the world that I don't really understand the concept that's going on, and I should look into it. And that's how I started getting more into self-development. And now, like, I know it's the fact that I wasn't bartering for attention, right? I wasn't trying to buy attention, affection, or love through giving something. Now I can understand this principle, like I write about in my book. But at the time, I was just like, oh, and there's also some validation things to it. I try to stay away from that because I find the validation game very toxic, and you kind of attract what you are. So if you're playing that validation game, you're going to get other girls looking for the validation, and then that's probably not the type of girls you want. But so that's how I got into it, through a memoir by a physicist.
Okay, and so you go into really accepting this new paradigm. And can you talk about how you see this new paradigm versus how most people see the paradigm?
Sure. Like that in the book, it's kind of separated in two different sections. The beginning of the book is a lot explaining to people how you got where you are. And the second half goes more into like the behaviors and things, more specifics. And so I started talking about paradigm shift of just like how you need to view the world. And so if you're actually going to go on this journey and process, there's going to be things in your mind that need to change off the bat so you can look at success. So if you're thinking that things like looks, money, what are the other big ones that guys always say you need to have? Some type of career, house, those standard things that society defines as like a man must have. or women won't like them, then you're not, that's not going to help you, right? Like the paradigm is you have to learn that there's certain behaviors that attractive men show and a certain type of lifestyle they live, which is a lifestyle of them living honest to themselves, is what the majority of women are actually interested in. And if you think it's these external things like your car and your money and things like that, then yeah, you're not gonna have too much luck.
So what are some of those behaviors? And let's go a little bit deeper into living a life honest to oneself.
Yeah, so some of the behaviors is like the first one I talked about in the Feynman book is like not bartering for attention. A lot of people try, or affection. A lot of people try to, what is the giving the drink really saying? It's saying, take this and like me. But it doesn't have to be a drink. It can be an insincere compliment. It can be offering to do favors to a girl for no real reason. It could be like, in college, it's like people, oh, I'll help you with your homework assignments. Like in the book, I give an example of Ryan, and he was trying to buy a girl's affection just by helping to do her homework and doing all her assignments for her, thinking that if he sacrificed enough of himself for the girl, that in the end she would end up liking him. And I think a lot of guys do this in different ways.
Yeah, maybe even at work too, like taking more of her assignments at work, perhaps if they're not in college.
Sure, yeah, exactly. And in this case, the girl ended up failing her finals because she didn't actually learn anything because Ryan did all the work. But in the end, of course, she doesn't end up with him either, right? Like he's trying to buy affection through doing this. And even if people try to do it with gifts, with money, it can be in a lot of different ways. And the thing is, it's not effective to do that. So one thing in the book is, not doing that, not bartering for attention. Other ones include not like forcing a rapport or seeking reactions from people. Like you say something because you actually mean it. You don't say it because you want a response from them. You're not seeking compliments from the person. Things like qualifying yourself. Like you say what you mean, and you don't, like this was the big one I had problems with. I remember back in college, and it's like those cringeworthy moments where like you're sitting with the girl you like and you're talking to her, and then she says, like, you say something, I see I upset her. And then right away I'm like, oh no, I'm sorry. Your point of view is correct as well. And then she only looks more upset. Why? Because that's like a disgusting behavior for a guy to have, especially a guy that she might be interested in. It's a guy who doesn't have a backbone, can't even stand up for what he said 2 seconds ago. So this constant qualifying yourself and trying to impress.
So wanting to be liked, wanting her attention, validating yourself through her reaction of you rather than just giving it to yourself because you're a strong man.
Right, exactly. You need the validation. You're searching for the validation. You're asking is, am I good enough all the time through everything you do? It can even be like in the book I describe, like even just little pauses in between saying something where you're looking to get like validation back. Like, did you like that? Was that okay for you? Like, was that a good joke? Like, instead of just like saying the joke and not needing her to laugh at it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So these are some of the behaviors, and then living a life honest to oneself. So what would be a bad example of this? And then what are you suggesting men do?
Well, the bad example of this would be like taking a job you hate just because it gives way more money. Of course, sometimes you have to work shitty jobs just to like support yourself. That's normal. But this is like, okay, instead of taking this job, which is more aligned with my passion, I'm going to take this job because it gets me more money. And with this more money, I can live a more luxurious lifestyle. And then after I have this more luxurious lifestyle, then I'll have more women in my life. And what you'll see is like, what many of these guys find is like, the women never come. And the ones that do are the ones that are like the ones that are on Dan Blazarian's boat, right? They're probably more looking.
They're trying to take more than They're there to take.
I think. I mean, I have nothing wrong with that, really, because I think Dan sets the expectations from the beginning, right? It's like very honest communication of why you're here and what you're getting in return, or whatever, right? But like for most guys, like for myself, or a lot of the more technical guys that I coached and things. That's not really the woman that they want, right? You attract what you are. So if you're trying to attract with money, what you're going to find is mostly girls who want money. And this is going to give you kind of a false reality, but it's going to reinforce it. Like, see, all the girls want is money. That's not true at all. It's just that when you lead with money and you use that to attract girls, it's like setting up, like you're using that that's the way you do it, then those are the type of girls you're going to attract. And the same thing, like, going on still with you attract what you are. If you're like a pickup artist and you're going out on a Tuesday night to bars, like just trying to pick, like you're not just to practice social skills, but for the purpose of picking up girls, like then the type of girls you're probably going to meet on a Tuesday night are also the ones looking for validation. You're a guy running around looking for validation because, well, I'm a good PUA. That means I have to pick up a girl once or twice a week at least. So you're looking for that validation when you're going out. And the type of girls that are going to respond to that will probably be that type as well. And so that's the downside of that's when you're not living honestly. And when you are living honestly, you're pursuing your self-avowed goals. You're very happy with yourself. You're going on the direction you want, and your interactions with the women are offering the opportunity to get to know a cool guy and seeing if you want to join me on my journey.
Yeah. Living an honest life to yourself. I want to add on this and say being able to say no to women and other people. Just being able to say no because you're standing for what you believe in and what you value, rather than saying yes when you don't want to, but you're doing it in a form of seeking validation from other people.
Right. The boundary thing is another big thing that I put in the book. Like in the book, I talk about 4 C's of female attraction, which I call like cleanliness, confidence, congruence, and consistency. Cleanliness, I wasn't going to throw in there, but then I thought back to my engineering class and I was like, all right, yeah, those guys, like, we might as well list this.
Are you talking about grooming? You're talking about grooming? I mean, this
right.
Is just,
grooming.
it's kind of just something I assume that guys know, but sometimes it doesn't.
Right. And this book is written for everyone. You don't have to have a technical background. I mean, the title and cover and everything is kind of like tongue in cheek. It's a joke instead of like fundamentals of thermodynamics. I kind of just want to make, because I thought it was funny. That's why I did it. But I also kind of like, while anyone can read the book and understand it, like the title and the different words I use, if you have like a technical background, there's wordplay that you might find amusing. And when I thought about those guys, I was like, yeah, you don't have to be handsome, but you have to do proper grooming and show that you respect yourself on some level. But the more important ones are the other 3, which is confidence, congruence, and consistency. And we're talking about boundaries, and that's long-term consistency. Short-term consistency is just in the single interaction that your thoughts, words, and actions are aligned, and what you're thinking and what you're saying and how you're acting, it's all congruent. You're speaking honestly. And the important thing about speaking honesty, for a girl to know you're not lying or trying to trick her, the most important thing about this is if she doesn't feel that she can trust what you're saying, then she can't trust that she's actually getting to know you. And if she doesn't get to know you, there's no one to be attracted to, right? So as soon as she feels some incongruence and she's like, oh, I don't know, something's off about this guy, she can't trust the signals that you're showing her. And that's the most important thing. You need to show her these signals for her to become attracted. But if they're not honest signals, that you won't trust them and attraction can't occur.
Yeah. It's like if she can't trust you, then what she does unconsciously is she puts up a shield, and then any time that you're talking to her, you're saying things that actually might be pretty good and honest, they might actually be genuine things to say to this woman, she just bounces anything you say, she just hits it with the shield, and it's not going in, and she's defending herself because she doesn't trust you, and you're a stranger, and you're a strong, bigger man, and she should do that.
Yeah, that's a natural reaction. Even if you're in a business, if you're like, the thing is, as you know, these skills, like, they're the same for attracting women or being successful communicating with women as they would be in business, right? If you go into a business meeting and something seems off about you, like, and you're trying to make some deal that's worth $1 million or something, the other side's going to be reluctant to sign it if there's some incongruence.
Absolutely. And so the consistency,
right? So
you said short-term consistency and then the long-term consistency.
Sure. So the short-term consistency is, your thoughts, words, and actions are all aligned in the moment. And the long-term consistency comes back to what we were talking about, boundaries and being able to say no, right? And so a lot of people, they get confused. I see in relationships, you can even see this a lot of times when you're younger with people's parents and things, or with your own parents. Like, the guy seems to be doing everything the woman wants or what she's like asking him to do, but the woman only seems to becoming more upset. And it doesn't logically make any sense. And that's because men are logical and women think you're normally more emotional. So normally if a guy is doing something for a woman, but he's stepping over his own boundaries, and the woman sees that, okay, she's getting what she wants, but this guy's not respecting his own boundaries that he set before, maybe like months before, years before. Again, this is like long-term consistency. The woman gets emotionally distraught because she feels like, wow, if I can manipulate him, other people can manipulate him. And that makes her not feel secure. And when a woman don't feel secure, they don't feel loved, and they'll often like lash out, and they're going to try to, these like maybe pushing your buttons even more is them trying to either confirm their fears or repudiate their fears.
And so what can a guy do here to prevent this from happening?
Well, first he has to know his own boundaries for himself. A lot of people don't, some people have been walked around a lot, been walked over their whole life, and they haven't really set their own boundaries and thought, what do I value? What can I stand? Where do I draw the line? You have to be willing to walk away, right? Like, even if the interaction is going good, like, there's been times I met women, but there's, like something like anything like something like doing drugs or something like that, to me that's, or even like smoking, like to me that's like a limit. It's like, no, like I have boundaries, and to me, okay, it's nice meeting you, but we're not really compatible because these are things that I don't really stand for.
Yeah. And what happens here to the guy if he actually starts leaning towards that, where she's like, makes him smoke, or he starts leaning more into who she is and taking on her values that may be self-defeating?
Well, yeah, first of all is like you're taking on values that will be self-defeating. That's like negative number one. Negative number two is going to be like she'll probably even lose respect once you do it. So you might start taking up her bad habits to try to make her stay with you. And then that might help you in the short run. And then in the long run, when she notices how easily she can manipulate you into doing what she wants, then she leaves you anyway because she feels insecure.
Yeah.
So it's lose-lose. So don't do it. That's the point.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about healthy entitlement and common limiting beliefs of men.
Right. So like entitlement, I feel like, especially in this politically correct day and age, you have to be very careful. That's why I spent a whole chapter like defining it, the difference between healthy entitlement and unhealthy entitlement. And so for healthy entitlement, this is just believing that there's no reason that you're not good enough for another person. Unhealthy entitlement is believing that you deserve another person, and no one person deserves another person, right? That's ridiculous. But there's a lot of people, in the darker parts of the internet, away from the self-development, more into the darker areas. They think like, okay, they're very frustrated guys, and they're like, okay, I've done what I've been told my whole life. Like I might have a successful career. I've always sacrificed myself for a woman. I'm like now 25, 30, 40 years old. And like, I've gotten nothing for it. They think like, okay. And they start getting angry and thinking I should be entitled. Like, why are these girls always going with these guys? These guys don't sacrifice themselves for them. These guys, they're not, I bought this. Look what I bought this girl for her birthday. She didn't even ask for it. Like, I'm better. And they get this. That's unhealthy entitlement. Healthy entitlement is like, oh, there's no reason I can not go up and talk to that person and get to know them. There's no reason like I can't go for that job interview, like that I couldn't work at that company. There's no reason that I couldn't get into this program at a university.
So it's like, so I think, if he can do it, so can I, kind of thing.
Yeah, what one man can do, another man can do.
Another man can do, absolutely. And did you listen to one of my episodes? That's in the intro.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard it.
Yeah, okay. And that's coming from a healthy place. I was once, as you were saying and talking about the unhealthy entitlement, I was not recently, but about a year or so ago, I remember I was at a bar lounge with a friend, and I was like, hey, let's go chat with these girls. And he's like, no, they should talk to me because of who I am. I'm worth way more than everyone in this room. I'm not going to go talk to them. They should know who I am. And it was just this really, it almost came from a place of like evil, like just the energy that behind those words. Like, wow, okay, I'm gonna go talk to these girls, but that frame that I am that entitled, like they should know who I am. It makes me kind of really question this person's values and their own integrity.
Yep, and that's what happens after you live for years in a false paradigm, but you keep reinforcing the false paradigm and then get frustrated because of it, and then you develop unhealthy entitlement. So that's exactly why these are the two first chapters of the book. Yeah, because I'm trying to head off these guys who are at that point already. Because I know the guys are at that point already. Like, we need to correct that right off the bat at the beginning of this book, change this mentality. And I even write in the book, you might throw this book down now at this point because you feel like your worldview is under attack. And this makes you feel insecure because I don't want to think like, you mean that those 30 years I was doing all these things I hated just because I thought they would bring these results was a waste? It's like, yeah, that it might be, but you can then instead use that as leverage, right? You should have more leverage than anyone else to get better.
Yeah. It can become a very bad vicious cycle for some guys where they constantly chase success and external things to validate themselves. And they feel like, hey, I have all of this. Like, I'm making this amount of money. I'm driving this car. Why don't I have the woman that I want? And why does that guy over there who works at a delivery company Why does he have the girl that I want? And it could really mess with the guy's mind. And he thinks, you know what, maybe I need to be more successful. And then he goes on this adventure and doubles his net worth. And it can be a very bad cycle unless they really start taking on that healthy entitlement and accepting that new paradigm, which we've been talking about.
Right, exactly. And again, like, let's not put down like building a successful career, making lots of money. These are all great things, but it's the reason behind, it's like everything. It's the reason behind it. You're doing it, right? So if you're on your purpose and you're doing these things and they're just part of you and you're chasing success that you have defined for yourself, but not society has defined externally, then this is all great. And when you meet women, I mean, it's an emotional process, and they'll make it normally in a first interaction. It's how you make the person feel. And that's a whole chapter of the book, the difference between emotions and logic. But if you have these great career, great lifestyle, of course, these are all to your benefit. But when she's rationalizing logically why she likes you, but that first step is going to be emotional. And like a lot of guys who coached, they don't have any of this stuff, like, or at least when they start, right, coaching. And before they build their companies or get a lot of success, but they still meet plenty of women.
Absolutely. Trust me, I'm all for the success professionally and building a business or really crushing it in their career. But absolutely coming from that healthy place of I'm doing this for me, and I'm not thinking that this is what's going to equal success with women, because I believe it's a different skill set, success in your career versus success in the social arena.
Yeah, and the reasons behind you doing it, I think is the main thing.
Absolutely. So let's go into scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset.
Right. So this is what I think is the biggest single thing that makes a difference in the mindset of people. Because if you're living in scarcity, it changes your behaviors and everything you do. You can see this, it's anything in the history of the world where there's a food shortage or water shortage. Like we need water at least in 3 days. What if there was a water, like in California, you have a water shortage, and let's think there really became a water shortage. What do you think would happen to like civilization in 3 days? It would probably collapse. It would get pretty crazy. But that's because people are going to be acting out of scarcity. They're going to think like, oh my God, there's not enough. If there's only a certain amount of something, if someone else has it, that means I don't have it. And this is like a really bad mindset to have, especially when it comes to dating or business. And if you live in like United States or like Western Europe or a lot of countries, there's no reason you actually should have it. Like there really is the land of abundance. There's 6 billion people on this world. There's like plenty of people for you to go out and meet. You don't have to be jealous because your friend got a date and you didn't, But as soon as you get out of the scarcity mindset and into the abundance mindset, and I like to say, like, a lot of guys are going to say, okay, yeah, but it's easy to feel an abundance like when you are dating, but how do you have an abundance mindset when you don't have anything at all? And for that is you have to buy into the process, right? You have to trust the process and then be able to buy into your future success. So you have to trust that the processes you're on is going to bring you the results. And that's what I'm trying to convince you in the book. And by doing that and knowing that you're on your journey and you're going to honestly work hard on this journey, you can borrow from your future success and have pride in yourself. And that can give you an introductory abundance mentality before you start having regular dates and things like that.
Yeah. And I think that's the question. Yeah, it's like which comes first? How do you get it? But you're saying buy into the fact that you've started the process and you trust that it's going to lead you to some positive result. I think you can think about when you start college. It doesn't guarantee right away that you're going to be successful after you graduate, but you're really trusting the process, and you know that, hey, once I graduate, I learn these things that I'll likely be able to succeed in the future. So you're content with all the studying that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, college nowadays is a little bit tricky, but like as an investment, but yeah, overall, that's true. It's like when you start learning anything, it's like, well, I suck at guitar. It's like, well, do you trust in the process that if you practice guitar every day, that in a few months that you're going to be pretty good? At least you can play Wonderwall or something, I think you would. It's like, oh yeah, obviously if I did practice every day, I probably would be able to play guitar in a month. So it's just trusting in that process. Another thing is like, this is very interesting when it comes to scarcity, and it's very intuitive, but a woman doesn't actually want you to put her before everything else in your life, right? So a lot of guys who are like sacrificing and trying to buy their affection, because a woman doesn't want to be like completely dependent, you to be completely dependent on her for your own happiness. And for there to be a healthy relationship, the center of your life needs to be your own personal purpose. and not the need to please another person. And this sounds like the guys who have been living in another paradigm, they go, wow, this sounds so selfish. But it's not, because it's much more selfish for you to take the responsibility for your own personal happiness off yourself and then force it on a woman, because she would just like much more enjoy being taken on your life journey with you instead of you like trying to hitch yourself to her life journey.
Yeah, and you talked about it too in the beginning of this interview, where you said that if you put all your source of happiness into one area and you lose it, then you're devastated. I mean, that's a crisis. When you lose your one source of happiness, that's a crisis. Even if we're not talking about dating, if someone loses their business and that was their source of happiness, if someone is an athlete and they get injured and they can no longer play, and like if you lose the one thing that gave you so much happiness, it is a crisis in someone's life. And with women, I think because it's really a part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is sex is on the it's on the bottom. If we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and you look at food and sleep, sex is right there with it. It's not at the top, although love is at the top, but sex, and when we lose something like that, it could be really devastating. Imagine just losing your house, like losing that form of connection with someone can really take a man down.
Yeah, can take anyone down. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So also, I think with the whole scarcity mindset, abundance mindset, going back to like what one man can do, another man can do. Where if another man can do it, and I'm a man, and if he did it and he went on this journey, then there's no reason why I can't either.
Sure. I think listening to your podcast like every week is another story. It's the same story in a different form, right? It's someone who's taken action, had focus, and created something. And I think I can speak for me personally, and I think you would agree, even with the creation of this podcast and your own business, is you learn these principles through learning to communicate better with women. And you discover like, oh, if I can actually now date women that I really like, and from nothing, from this like passing someone in the street or meeting at a coffee shop, create this awesome relationship, then what else can I create for nothing? Can I create a business? Can I create who knows what?
Yeah, I honestly, and that right there just opens up your world so much when someone because you realize that your world isn't just the people you grew up with, but that every person that is walking by you is a potential friendship, a potential relationship. It's a potential business partnership. It's just having that courage to open your mouth and speak and communicate effectively, and you can create something out of nothing. It's like every day's a blank canvas when you wake up, and you get to paint what your day is going to look like, and you're the creator of what's going to happen in your life. And I think that is one of the most freeing feelings to have, whether that's with women or even in business. I mean, a business is created out of nothing.
Absolutely. And I think the big thing is, when people don't do these things, is it's fear. And what I think where this fear really comes from is we all have this little voice inside of us that says, okay, I'm not good enough for her. I'm not good enough to go to this university. I'm not good enough to work at this job. And you think if I try to do this and I fail, then that little voice inside will be right and I'll just feel terrible. But that's because we're drawing our sense of self from these external things again. Like people whose sense of worth aren't tied to these external things, like going all the way back to the first quote I started with, they don't feel this fear, right? They go, wow, they don't look at it, look, that's going to be, this confirm my fears, that rejection. They look, wow, that's a potential opportunity. And when you have that, you start walking through life and looking at, wow, that's a beautiful girl that I could go on a date with. Wow, that guy's doing some interesting stuff that's similar to my own business. Maybe we could collaborate. You don't care if you get to know the person, have a nice conversation, and then it doesn't work out. It was just like a potential opportunity that you took and you looked into. It wasn't a failure.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very empowering episode here. Just what we talked about in your book here with fundamentals of female dynamics. Let's now dive into the knowledge round. I'm just going to ask you a few more rapid fire questions. So are you ready for the knowledge round, Michael?
Yes, absolutely.
Have you ever wanted to become a highly paid online thought leader in your space? Have you ever wanted to be an author and get that book out? Have you ever wanted to speak on stage about something that you were passionate about and get paid for it? Have you ever wanted to sell courses online passively and wake up to seeing deposits made into your bank account while you were sleeping? So if you're interested in learning how to become a highly paid online thought leader and doing something similar to what I do, then you're going to love this free training I made for you where I share the exact steps I would take to build an online thought leader business if I was going to start all over. Go to kfminfluence.com to get access to this training. Again, that's kfminfluence.com. You see, people kept asking me how I built knowledge for men in a relatively short amount of time. So I created this training for you to save you time and money so that you can go out there and make a massive impact and income in the world doing what matters most to you. Go to kfminfluence.com to get this training now. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. All right, so what advice would you give to someone who's feeling really lost or unsure about their purpose, lacking a sense of direction in their life?
I feel some people just haven't really found what they're interested in because they have always been following the advice of other people. So I'd tell them to start taking like small risk and actually pursuing different things they do have interest in, and then reflecting on it and going from there.
Great. What do you think is really holding most men back from becoming stronger, grounded men?
I would say it's fear. It's that fear that if I fail, which you're most likely to fail the first time when you do anything, that this proves to myself that I'm not good enough person for whatever it is that you're pursuing. And they need to change that mindset to be like, I am good enough, and my value is not based on this success. My value is based on my willingness to keep trying and get up and try again, and remove that fear and look at things as opportunities.
What is the story that most men are telling themselves that needs to stop right now?
I can't do it. Like, it's not for me. Someone else can do it, but I can't, because fill in the blank with a million different excuses.
All right. And so your book here, Michael, is Fundamentals of Female Dynamics. So just want to give credit to your book here, your work. What have been 3 of your most influential books that have helped you on your journey, and why?
I love the book Spirit of St. Louis, written by Charles Lindbergh. He was the first man to fly from New York to Paris, and probably before Neil Armstrong, probably the most famous man in the world at the time. And in this book, there's a guy, he's in his mid-20s, doesn't have any money, doesn't have anything, but he's like, I want to be the first man to fly from New York to Paris. How is he going to do this? He finds some backers, he finds some financiers, they give him money, but no one will give him a plane because they don't want him to ruin the brand name by dying in the process. So he goes to, San Diego, finds a small company and builds his own plane. And in the course of 7 months, he goes from raising money to building his own airplane to being the first man to fly from New York to Paris.
Wow. What year was that?
That was in the 1912, but that's just a guess, in the early 1900s.
Wow. I feel like it would be a little bit later than that. I feel like the Wright brothers was like 1912 or 13 or something.
Yeah, it might have been.
Okay.
I can't remember.
I think it'd be like the 20s or something. Okay, so imagine you had 60 seconds with 20-year-old Michael. If you can envision where he's at personally, professionally, financially, relationships, and knowing what you now know today, what would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
Well, I'd give him like a quote. I think this is like from Tim Ferriss, and it says like the common sense rules of the real world, like in quotations, are a fragile collection of socially reinforced illusions. So like a lot of time, like at that time, let's see, 20 years old, I'm 27 now. 20 years old, I was like sitting in the library, probably studying 12 to 16 hours a day, pretty miserable, like have no social life, just focus, work. And I was basing all my values based on like scholastic achievement at the time, because that's all I'm really doing. I'm not really building my own businesses or doing my own thing. I'm just working as I'm supposed to, because that's what you do in university, right? And I'm basing my success and everything all in comparison to my colleagues, which is not to the things that I really want to do. So I tell myself to really think about my own values and then compare myself to those instead of comparing myself to other people's values.
Anything else?
That's it. I'll just try to inspire people to, start thinking about what they really value and pursuing that. I mean, the whole world economy is changing. It's going to be moving into more information economy. Like a lot of all the rules of the past are going to be what we think of societal rules and norms are going to be changing a lot in the next 20 years. So really you're not even going to be going against the grain. It's going to be, that's the way to do it.
Wow. And philosophy on life and success.
Philosophy on life is learn and do as much as you can, and while at the same time lessening the suffering of other people. So I think it's like to learn and do, experience what you want, and try to help other people in any way you can and make their lives better.
I like it. And Michael, what's exciting you today? What's getting you out of bed in the morning?
Oh, right. Today I'm in Russia, and I've been exploring that, and it's been great. It's just like meeting new people, getting new, like Russia's in the news quite a bit now in the US, and it's getting different perspectives and really learning for myself. Like, I just love to learn.
And career-wise, what are you up to? What are you looking forward to?
Well, so I wrote this book, and I'm very interested in building a company that works at teaching technical people social skills and communication skills. So I want to build a course where anyone will be able to take it, business people as well, but that teaches them the right way of communicating. Kind of taking these ideas for the book. In this book, it's through the medium of self-development and communicating with women, because I think a lot of men think that's maybe the most impossible thing in their life. And if they can learn it through this medium, then it's going to transfer everywhere else easily. Yeah. But for other people who are maybe already married, where this doesn't, they're not going to want to learn it through this medium. It'll be more generalized, but it'll go more in depth.
All right. Michael, looking forward to seeing the work come out here in the future. And for the listeners, Fundamentals of Female Dynamics, go to Amazon, author Michael Knight. Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your story and lessons here with my community.
Great. Thank you for having me, Andrew.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and millions of downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we're just getting started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes, because it really helps the podcast grow so we can impact even more men in the world who need this. Guys, this is all about living with purpose, where every day you only do things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. And always remember, love the life you have while creating the life of your dreams. Go to kfmfree.com to get a surprise bonus I've made for my listeners. Again, that's kfmfree.com for something that's changed my life, and I'm offering it to you for free. Also, check out my Amazon best-selling books that I've written for you to help you crush life at kfmauthor.com. Again, that's kfmauthor.com to see all the books I've created to help you break through in life. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, founder of knowledgeformen.com, and I'll see you in the next episode.